to Service Georgina on Rogers TV. I'm Mayor Margaret Quirk. Our goal is to bring you information to help you understand more about the many services and departments of the town of Georgina. Today's show will focus on the town's winter maintenance program. We'll talk about frozen pipes, and we'll also talk about road construction. Now, joining me first to talk about winter maintenance is Michael Voss, Manager of Roads and within the Operations and Infrastructure Department, and Ken McAlpine, Manager of Parks, Development and Operations within the Recreation and Culture Department. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, you're both in different departments, but you have the lucky opportunity to both be working with snow removal. Michael, you with roads, and Ken, you with sidewalks and then the town parking lots. In the winter season, one of the biggest concerns, I get emails and phone calls, is from residents who have a concern about traveling safe on the roads and the sidewalks across town. We oversee 333 kilometers of roads, 140 kilometers of sidewalks, and 25 municipal parking lots. That's a lot of snow to be removed over the winter months. And we recently had a report to council about the winter maintenance, which discussed our plans for this winter. Now, Michael, I'll let you go first and talk about the process involved in snow removal, the equipment and the staffing and the products used on our roads. And then we'll let Ken talk about sidewalks. But you first, Michael.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Mayor. It starts with our forecast monitoring and weather monitoring. And we have in-field patrolling that happens as well to make sure that we're catching any unforecasted events. In the event that we have weather coming in, we dispatch 7 town trucks and 5 contractor trucks and some other miscellaneous equipment to manage the winter event. We apply a variety of different materials. Mainly in the town is a 70-30 mix of sand and salt.
Now,
that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Step back there just a second, because I know throughout the town, the weather can be different. Where I live in Sutton can be different than somebody in Pefferlaw or somebody in Keswick. How do we track that? Are we able to get that fine of a detail when it comes to the weather?
Yeah, absolutely. We have 2 local area forecasts, one for Keswick and one for Sutton. That gives us an hour-by-hour detail of when an event is occurring, what type of precipitation, that type of thing. We also have in-field patrolling, as I mentioned earlier. So we have staff almost 24/7 throughout the winter season that are driving around and monitoring representative highways within the town.
Okay, good. I'll let you go on.
Excellent. Essentially, when the patroller recognizes that there's a winter event or a winter storm approaching, they're able to dispatch equipment as required. So there's 12 routes within the town, and there's a variety of contractors and town staff that manage each one of those routes. And that's basically it. I mean, we can go into a much finer detail if you require, but.
Okay, I'll let Ken, maybe your side of things is the sidewalks, and certainly parents, will talk about struggling to get their kids off to school. The sidewalks aren't done at when they need to get the kids to school. Tell us a bit about the process involved for snow removal that you handle, the sidewalks, and you also do municipal parking lots.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, similarly to roads, we have forecasting and patrols that go out ahead of time and identify an oncoming event. We contact our parks attendants and we mobilize out of the Civic Center campus. We have 3 sidewalk plows that head straight down to Keswick and the 3 zones there, and 1 out to Sutton and Pefferlaw. We also have 5 plow trucks that go to all of our facilities, starting with the high priority ones like the fire stations and emergency operations centers like the Ice Palace. And then we also do surface treatment with salt and sand, and many times we have to double back on a route, but we try to avoid that. And where we need to revisit, our patrols will tell us, get back down to South Keswick. There's a buildup of ice, and then we do surface treatment also, and we coordinate with our roads partners as well as York Region as best we can.
Now, snow doesn't come when we want it to. It arrives anytime, day or night, and so the timing of when we clear the streets may not work into the timing that when people are leaving for work. So Michael, people often ask why their street isn't done by the time they leave for work, and how are the routes determined, and what monitoring is done on when we do start clearing the roads?
Yeah, excellent question, Madam Mayor. We have very specifically identified routes based on the geography or topography of the town, traffic volumes, that type of thing. Within each route, there's primaries and there's secondaries. So primary routes are taken care of first, and they are typically fire routes, school zones, transit routes, difficult maintenance areas, hills, curves, that type of thing. Those are always taken care of first. They're often arterial roads as well that link up to regional roads or provincial roads. So they're definitely important to take care of first. And then once our resources have taken care of those primary routes, then they move on to secondary routes. So oftentimes residential routes and local roads are those secondary routes. So they definitely take some more time to have some maintenance done on those sections.
Now, how long does it take from start to beginning to do the roads within the town?
Once an event ends, our current levels of service are approximately 10 hours. So that's following a winter event. We expect to have all resources back in our yards, and all the town highways have been cleared and cleaned up within 10 hours after an event.
Okay, great, thank you. Now back to you, Ken. I know I get emails and calls, and I'm sure staff do directly as well. Damage that's done to lawns from the sidewalk snow plows, and maybe you can explain the process of, first of all, why does that happen, and if it does happen, what's the process for residents to get the repairs done to the turf area on their property?
Yeah, good question. So when we have our first snowfall, the sidewalk plow operators don't have a guideline or an edge to really follow. So it's just everything is consistently white. So they, as best they can, they try to follow the sidewalks and the locations of where that transitions into sod. Until we build up a bit of a windrow or a piled edge of snow, there's a chance that we would hit some sod, and every now and then we do peel up a little bit of sod. That is a spring repair with topsoil and seed from our park staff. The thing is, when we are plowing, there are times when you don't have that point of reference, and also there are sometimes cars overhang or close to the sidewalk edge, which requires the operator to veer around, and sometimes veering around means that they do peel up some sod.
Okay, great, thank you. Michael, you mentioned a minute or so ago there, winter maintenance events. Maybe explain the difference. We have a winter maintenance event and we have significant weather events that we can let residents know more about what they mean and what the difference is between them.
Yeah, definitely. So in a typical snowfall, we don't declare a winter maintenance event or a significant weather event. They're typically used for higher volume snowfalls, freezing rain activities, or those types of events that are going to be difficult to maintain. So the difference between the two, a winter maintenance event is declared for the town's operations staff to better clear the roadways. And what that means for residents is all vehicles, regardless of parking bylaws or exemptions, are required to be removed from the roadway. And that assists town staff and contractors with clearing the roadway to an adequate state. A significant weather event is declared to assist the town in relaxing the requirements, mainly the timelines for achieving bare pavement within the town on different sections of road. So what that means for us is that we're allotted a little bit more time than what is typically required. So, our levels of service are around 10 hours. That's a town mandated level of service. Our requirements under the Ontario regulation are 24 hours. And we're saying potentially we need a little bit more time because of the severity of the event. That's mainly the difference between the two. They can be declared simultaneously or individually. Yeah.
And we have declared, which one have we declared already this season?
A significant weather event. We've declared 2 of them. And it typically is not black and white because, forecasted weather is unique in nature. But typically it's anything in excess of 10 centimeters in a short amount of time that's going to be difficult to maintain. It can be, a much larger storm over 48 or 72 hours that can meet the criteria as well.
Okay, and I know, what should residents do if they see a problem on their streets? It hasn't been cleared properly. There's a slippery hill or corner or unplowed areas when everything else seems to be done. What should they do? Who should they contact?
Yeah, please contact the customer service hub. If there's a slippery condition, we need to be notified of that right away. In the event that there's some cleanup to be done, or there's some snow removal that's not to your satisfaction, I just encourage residents to just kind of wait that period after a snowfall to make sure that our resources are still out, they're still doing cleanup. If you notice that kind of everything else has been done, and there's still a concern on the roadway, then yeah, give us a call. In the event that the customer service hub is closed, we have an after hours line as well that is always available.
Yeah, and I always stress people, leave a message on the after hours line. Somebody isn't sitting there waiting for that phone to ring, but the messages are checked and they will be seen to. But if you don't leave a message, we can't know that there's a problem on a certain street or a certain
Absolutely.
hill. Now, you mentioned, and you both have sort of mentioned a couple of issues that can create problems. If a car is parked on the street, when the plow is trying to clear it, or a car parked over a sidewalk, what can happen with the cars? Can they be towed? What's the ability to do that, and how do we deal with that?
So in the case of the sidewalk plows, their biggest issue is, as I say, the protruding bumpers. And so if they can't get around and still clear the sidewalks, they're forced to go out onto the road and circle back, which ends up leaving a bit of a pile of snow that can't be dealt with at that moment, and they'll have to come back later, or the resident will be forced to get out and shovel it. I would maybe defer to our bylaw enforcement folks when it comes to ticketing, but Mike has something to offer on.
We've got a little bit of time left, but Michael, what would you advise people to do in terms of the parking restrictions? Where they should park during a winter storm. I know there's some streets that are different in the Simcoe Landing subdivision, but what are our rules? Really quickly, we got about 30 seconds left.
Yeah, it's basically no parking on any town street between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. Without those, where parking is permitted, you're allowed to park for 3 hours during the day. In Simcoe Landing, there is an exemption for the 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. Parking. I'm
going to have to cut you off there. We're taking a quick break, but we'll come back and we're going to learn about another winter issue, frozen pipes. Welcome back. We've been talking about winter maintenance, and now we're going to talk about frozen pipes, road construction. And so to do so, I'm joined by Rob Flindle, our Director of Operations and Infrastructure, and two members of his staff, Edgar Tovala, Manager of Environmental Services, and Nancy Fleming, Manager of Asset Management and Technical Services. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Now, one of the issues that can happen during the winter is frozen pipes, not something anybody wants to have happen. And Edgar, you told me some interesting facts the other day. You told me we have 217 kilometers of water mains within the town, and there's 14,000 service lines that run from those water mains to households. That's an amazing numbers. Now, maybe you can tell us what can cause the water services to freeze, and you can lead into how do people avoid this from happening?
Sure, absolutely. So interior pipes freeze when they are exposed to unheated space or exterior walls. If the pipes freeze outside a house, it is likely because they are not buried deep enough. Pipes should be at least 6 feet or 1.8 meters below the surface to below the frost line. Best thing to do is to call the town of Georgina, the main service line, to ask for assistance if there are any questions or doubts about this.
So how can they permanently sort of fix that problem? If the lines aren't buried deep enough, do they have to rerun the lines, or what can they be doing to try to insulate certain areas? What's the solution on a permanent basis?
Well, something important about that is that is not only the service line, but also the plumbing that could freeze. So it's on both sides. If the water service line has frozen in the past, the frozen portion is located within the household property, the best solution is to lower the service line to a depth of 1.8 meters to ensure that the pipe will not freeze in future. Now, the plumbing inside the house, they have to be insulated if they are exposed to unheated locations.
So if it's against an exterior wall, if they did an extra foam insulation or bad insulation, that could assist.
Exactly.
Now, are some areas of the town more prone to frozen pipes? Is some of the older areas perhaps?
That's a very good question, Madam Mayor. Yes, there are some areas of town that, particularly in Sutton and Jackson Point, where we have most of the frozen pipes. Our record shows, our historic records show about 140 houses, which is about 1% of all of our service line connections to households. So we're talking about really a minimum portion of houses that have historically been exposed to frozen conditions. And most, probably 95% of that 1% is in the Sutton, Jackson Point area.
And certainly even the unserviced areas of town, you should try to make sure that your pipes, if they are against an exterior wall, are insulated. You may not be on town services, but nobody wants to have frozen pipes or burst pipes, whether you're on services or your own well and septic. But there is a pamphlet, I think, online that people can get to. So it lays it all out very clearly. And if you have any further questions, that's what town staff are there for, to answer them. We're going to go a bit into the road discussion, but we may come back to Edgar if we have some time to talk a bit more about the water distribution throughout the town. Let's look at the road discussion in terms of the condition of town roads. And people are always asking, like, when is my road going to get resurfaced? How come I have the worst road in town? It's something that is certainly at a budget time. We hear loud and clear that people want us, the residents want us to be spending dollars on our roads and maintaining them and resurfacing them. I'll start with you, Rob, first as a director, sort of at a high level. I know you're going to want to bring Nancy into it, but how does the town monitor the condition of our roads?
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. The town in the past has relied on a system where we would bring in experts, consultants, so would drive all of the roads in town and do a visual inspection of the roads and prepare a class rating system of the condition of the roads. And that was a very traditional way of doing it. Municipalities have been doing that for a very long time, and it was quite effective. We're moving forward now with a more advanced program, which will see an inspection truck, which has video cameras and sensors that can determine, what the types of defects are on the road, whether it's cracking or potholing or rutting, all of those different types of defects, and record all of that very precisely by location. And then that can be fed into a software system. So we're just in the very beginning of that. We actually want to be a little bit further along than we are right now. But with the pandemic and the various slowdowns, everything's moving a little bit slower. But that's where we want to get to, is move out of the visual inspection and go into machine-based inspection.
Is that the one where we're working with the region to do that type of monitoring?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the really good opportunities we have to work with the region and our other partner municipalities to leverage this type of technology. So the region's been using it for pretty well 10 years now, and we're just coming on a little bit later. But now that they've got their system refined and the software well established, it's a good opportunity for us to get into their program and do a joint operation with them.
Great. Maybe Nancy wants to jump in and get into the details of how we decide which roads get treatments or are fully reconstructed. Maybe you can explain a little bit more on that, Nancy.
Absolutely, Madam Mayor. So just building on what Rob has said, we use asset management tools, or we'll be using those moving forward to determine which roads get treatments or are fully reconstructed. So things such as paving condition, which is what Rob was talking about with this GPS truck that we'll be collecting survey data with in the spring. Also other factors that contribute are pavement age, traffic volumes for the road that's traveled, and maintenance frequency as well to determine the type, the timing, and the need for road rehabilitation project. And we optimize the resources available to us using all this information that we collect.
So what types of work do we do? I know at budget time we talk about roads getting, surface treatments or crack sealing or full reconstruction. Maybe you can sort of give residents an idea of what those treatments are, what those methods are, and why they're used and when they're used.
So I like to look at it as a very phased in approach in the life cycle of a road. Depending where the road is in its life cycle, we do different things. And it actually spans across different divisions within the operations department. So first and foremost, we use preventative maintenance measures. So those are things that Mike and his team look after in terms of asphalt patching to resurface smaller sections of a road. This extends the useful life of a road by resurfacing localized areas where a road requires improvement, but the rest of the road segment remains in good condition. Also, preventative maintenance looks at crack sealing, to your point, to prevent surface water from entering the road base and causing further deterioration of that road base. And we also look at our catch basins and ensuring we clean those annually to ensure they're in good working order. So we're keeping them clear of debris. So stormwater doesn't flood our roads and infiltrate into our road base. Once those preventative maintenance measures extend the life cycle of the road, then there are times when we have to look at, it needs additional TLC, if you may. So we look at the next phase would be roads resurfacing. And roads resurfacing is where we know the overall structure of the road base is still good. So I like to call it the bones of the road is still good. But we remove the top or shave the top part of the road off and repave that. So that's that resurfacing work that we do. And you've seen that around town this past spring and summer.
Right.
Then the third most extensive piece is where the roads really come to the end of its life cycle. And we have to do something more extensive in terms of our intervention. So here we dig the road right down to its road base and replace it completely. And actually, when we do this type of work, we can actually look at different other types of assets within this road reconstruction, because within our road area that we look to reconstruct, there's pipes underneath there where Edgar and his team are looking at water mains and sewer mains that maybe have come to the end of their useful life. And that gives us an opportunity to look at fixing those at the same time and reconstructing the road. And in our urbanized areas, we would also couple in fixing gutters and sidewalks, and then ditches and culverts in a more non-urbanized area of our town.
It's a very complicated process, and it's not as easy as just go out and fill in a pothole or dig up a road and rebuild it. But I just want to step back a bit, because we sort of touched on it, but we haven't used the phrase, and Mr. Flindles knows what I'm going to say. The phrase we talk about a lot at budget time and when we bring reports forward on road reconstruction is keeping the good roads good. And maybe you can explain, either Rob or Nancy, what we mean by that. You sort of touched on it, but maybe, sort of encapsulate what that really means.
Well, one of the most important parts of the life cycle of a road is, to your point, keeping the good roads good by maintaining them. So what I mean by that is really that first phase that we just talked about, where the three-phase system of a life cycle of a road is we're undertaking preventative maintenance measures. So making sure we're, just like you would take your car in and you check your tires and you rotate your tires and do all that work, similar things with assets. So we have Mike and his team undertaking those preventative maintenance things like filling potholes, crack sealing, and keeping those catch basins clean of debris, so we can really prevent those larger issues from happening on our roads that would require reconstruction earlier than necessary.
And I know I've seen charts and graphs where you have the life cycle of a road, and a lot of residents don't look at it in that way of a life cycle of a road. You think a road's there forever, but they do have a life cycle, and doing those interventions does help to extend the life of that road. Now, you mentioned some of the major, when we get to the point that we have to do a major road project, and one of the ones where we've approved in the budget is Irving Road that's going to happen this year. But maybe tell, how do we actually plan for that? Do we do it all in 1 year, or how do we look at making sure we get that project done and any other major project done with all the right information?
So there's a lot of planning for a road reconstruction. It's not really just going out and doing it. So it's a multi-year process. We really start from the get-go, from the asset management perspective, condition assessment. So determining that, yes, we need to do something and what type of intervention we need to do. So in terms of Irving Road, we've determined it needs a full reconstruction. So the steps now are, it's over a 2-year process. In 2021, we are planning to do the prep work, if you may. So it's geotechnical investigation, which is finding out what's underneath that road that makes things that we need to look at in order to design it properly. Also survey work. And all this information that we collect goes into the detailed design of the road and how we're going to actually do the work. Once all this is in place over 2021, in 2022, we'll be moving to actually doing the reconstruction works.
And it's good to have that plan in place. Otherwise, you're setting out to do something that isn't going to have the ultimate effect that you want. We have a little bit of time left, so before we wrap up, you have mentioned it a little bit, is the asset management plan, and each municipality is mandated by the province to do one. Where are we with our asset management plan?
We are currently undertaking an asset management plan under Regulation 588 for our core assets. Core assets, as defined by the province, are water, wastewater infrastructure, and roads and bridge infrastructure. So
we'll have that done this year. So thank you. And thank you all for joining me. This is great information. And again, we could talk for quite some time on roads. So that's all the time we have. Thank you for joining me today, and thanks for watching. I'm Mayor Margaret Quirk, and this has been Service Georgina on Rogers TV. See you next time.